just about 10 a.m. and as we wait for a few more participants to join us this morning, I wanted to welcome everyone to our Philadelphia COVID-19 janitorial and security best practices presentation. How this came about for planned companies is every Thursday, or Tuesday now, I'm sorry, at 10 a.m., we are doing a much bigger broadcast. We have several different vendors from across the country who join us, and we share best practices in larger territories. We thought it would be helpful if we did more localized specific seminars for some of our favorite cities and that we do work in. Today, this is all for you, Philadelphia. We're excited to have Mr. Philadelphia with us today, Danny Riley, who is our representative for that market, who will guide you through just some housekeeping for our presentation today. Throughout the entire presentation, you'll be able to click on the Q&A button and ask any of the panelists who will be part of today's presentation any questions, and we will answer them all before we get off the call today. So once again, welcome. Vinny, if you could go to the next slide. Just by quick introduction, my name is Dino Giuliano. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Planned Companies. I have been with the company for over 17 years now, and I oversee our sales and marketing divisions in all 14 states that we operate. With me today, and here he comes, the master of today's ceremonies, Mr. Philly, Danny Riley.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? Just confirming.
We hear you great, Danny. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction. Love that, Mr. Philly. First time hearing that one. So Dino mentioned my name is Danny Riley. Good morning, everyone, again. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for joining us at this webinar. A very informative, hopefully very knowledgeable webinar you can take away and learn some best practices about this pandemic we're all going through and what we can do to help you. So my title is Director of Business Development. I've been with Plan for a fast 5 years now. While I oversee Philadelphia and the PA market, I also oversee New Jersey and Delaware as well. My main role today is really to consult and give you, again, best practices. And I oversee all of the planned companies umbrella. So everything from janitorial maintenance, front desk concierge, and security. Next slide, Vinny. We'll hop into it.
Vinny may be having technical difficulties. Vinny, did we lose you?
New Zoom meetings, folks. It's the new normal too. We're still learning as well.
Okay. All right. While we've lost Vinny, Danny, can you talk to the next slide?
Yeah, not a problem. As long as you can still see me.
We can see
I'll
you.
give you. The good news is the next slide is really just a brief overview of what we're going to cover. Everything from a general landscape of the Philadelphia market, primarily of what we're going through, what you're going through versus the national overview as well, and some factual information you can take away from that. Then we'll go into some janitorial best practices. We're also going to include some adjustments because just like you, this is all new to us. We're constantly learning, constantly evolving. So we'll go through everything from chemical supplies to proper communication over to cleaning methods as well for that janitorial section. And then I'll turn it back over to Dino. Again, some high-level items. And Dino will talk about security during this pandemic and some best practices and solutions you can hopefully utilize for your property. And then this is mainly for you guys. So we're going to go back into some resources you can take away, some links, and as well as a Q&A, we can hopefully answer all your questions. So looks like the slides back up.
Yeah, we're getting there. Thank you guys for fixing that in the background. All right, and we're ready for the next slide, guys. Thank you.
Great, next slide, we'll hop into it. So yeah, so here's the landscape of Philadelphia. And basically what this is, everyone, is obviously the visual here you have is the nation versus your market, Philadelphia. And while it's tough news and not the best news to give, it is factual, and hopefully it is sobering and kind of opens your eyes to see what really happened during this pandemic. So everything from the unemployment rate in the rest of the country, you're at 14%. Philadelphia, I would say only at 7% versus the nation. Cases, unfortunately, again, it's staggering at 1.5 million nationwide, and you are only at approaching 20,000, which you'll note soon that it's starting to decline and slow down. And then debts, it's sad to see. It's about 90,000 debts nationwide, and in Philly, again, I use the word only. It's just over 1,000 debts at this point. So, it is what it is, but just wanted to give you that factual information. Next slide, Vinny. There we go. We're on a roll. Okay, so a timeline, overall impact, everyone, on this market again, and what the trend is on the Eastern Seaboard. You really see a lot of concerns happening end of February, beginning of March. So here on March 6th, obviously Philadelphia officials are preparing for the worst at this point. We're not sure what was going to happen. So they're working with the CDC. A lot of the major cities are. And in this case, we're working with the Pennsylvania Department of Health. And within a matter of a few days, you see on March 10th, the first case was announced. The first COVID case was announced. And it obviously spiked from there through April. A number of cases climbed in the middle of April, a huge spike on a daily basis, actually. And Philadelphia was lucky enough to get a little bit ahead of the curve and implement a testing facility that was open 7 days a week. Again, this is for folks that only have those symptoms that could come to the testing center. Hopefully everyone was following that protocol. And then you skip down to a couple of points with the mayor. He's been doing as best as he can, Mayor Kennedy, to announce that, for example, small businesses got some relief. This happened early May, didn't really come into fruition until mid-May. So around just over 2,000 businesses, particularly small businesses for that matter, received a total of over $13 million. I will add that we're lucky enough as our company to be an essential business and a lot of the property management groups as well. So you may have not seen that kind of support financially, but lucky enough, you're still active in the community and serving your clients. So you see a little bit of a change in spike mid-May to current date here. You'll note that while we had confirmed over 1,000 deaths, 55% of those were only considered in long-term health situations. We're seeing that kind of trend as far as people really battling the COVID health problems with other existing symptoms as well. And at the end to date now, as we're here at the end of May, lab results have shown that we're seeing a decrease. And that's across the Eastern Seaboard once again. That trend is we had a spike and we flattened the curve, and now it's a substantial decrease on a daily case-by-case basis. So that's the timeline impact Philadelphia market, and we'll hop over to the next slide, Vinny. So just a little bit of kudos, and just to show you what we're trying to do in the market. Again, we have a lot of people in the field, and we've received numerous amounts of testimonials from our current clients and even new clients. And just as I'm talking here, you can read through some of the great testimonials for our team that have been doing a tremendous job in the market. Everything from our janitorial staff, our concierge manning the lobbies, not leaving their post with no complaints, just doing their job. We were extremely proud to see this out in the Philadelphia market. Next slide, Vinny. Okay, so like I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to look at a few janitorial items and some best practices you can take away, and obviously some adjustments as well. Just to start, again, high level, you can read through this on your own accord and take it away later on. You can have it online. We'll give you that link. But high level, obviously, open line of communication. You want to have not only communication with your janitorial team, but you want them to be able to communicate back with you. That ties into having a point of contact, a liaison as we call it. Whether it's one of our operations managers working side by side with one of your leads on site or the property management group, that should all tie in together. That allows for correct schedules, inspections, daily check-ins to make sure the staff has proper gear on, that people are showing up to work, they have transportation. That all comes into play when it comes to cleaning protocols and when it comes to proper staff coverage as well. You really want to tie all those in together. Next slide, please. Okay, so everything from your basic chemicals up to the chemicals we're using today, whether it's a Windex or a Virex, proper applications are key here. The CDC, we recommend to go on the CDC websites and really keep yourself up to date with kill times, proper applications, and for example, our cleaning teams, at first we had a production rate of how long it would take to properly apply a chemical. That changed production rate after about a month, and we had to come back and adjust accordingly to make sure that the chemicals were being successfully applicated to all hard surfaces and other areas for the property to ensure that the kill time was actually successful. Everything from your floating crews to signage, this all adds up again back to having a proper staff and making sure your property is as essential and as successful as possible. And we're obviously here for you to answer more of those questions if you have a need for that. Next slide, Vinny. So that's my part, high level again for janitorial. I'm going to flip it back over to Dino to go over some security best practices and protocols and his solutions. And take it away, Dino. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and fantastic job, Danny Riley. I really appreciate it. One question I have for you before I proceed, is that the city of Philadelphia behind your head there?
It is. Yep. This is one of my office views. Yes. So I'm here in Philadelphia. I'm here for the folks today.
That's great. That's fantastic. So thanks, Danny. Let me proceed here with the security portion for today. You know, a lot of folks tend to think about janitorial and keeping their buildings clean during COVID-19. And of course, that is important, as Danny just showed you in his part of today's presentation. But equally as important, especially during this pandemic and any crisis that happens to hit the country, especially when it affects financials, crime tends to be on the rise. And during troubling times, not only do you want to ensure the safety and security of your folks from getting this horrible, horrific virus, but you also want to make sure that they remain safe and secure in their homes as well. So it's important that we talk about some of the things I want to go over with you today. So of course, keeping your staff safe is a primary thing that everyone wants to have, not only for your security staff, but even those janitors and matrons that Danny was talking about earlier. You want to make sure that the residents understand the importance of keeping a safe distance between the staff and themselves. So encourage people not to linger or hang out in the lobbies. You know, lobbies have always been the focal points of buildings. It's where people get together. It's where they meet. The staff in the lobbies tend to be the center point of the building. They are the ambassadors for what's happening, not only in the building, but in and around Philadelphia. You want to encourage people through communication. Danny talked about communicating earlier with your residents, how critical it is, and your staff. Sending out communications to your residents saying, hey, now is not the time to be hanging out in the lobby. If you need to staff, please reach out to them by phone. You know, if you do need to go to the lobby, keep the 6-foot distance that you want to have tape down on the ground. You want to have, I illustrate some barriers here that you may want to consider. Some plastic separators between the staff and people that they have to engage with. You might see these in supermarkets. You may have seen them in other places. You absolutely want to keep the people who are used to working in your building, the people who have the most knowledge of your property. It is in your best interest, in our best interest, to keep them safe and to keep them as the front line for your property. Locking down doors that were previously open. You want to have one central point for people to come in and out of your building now. Now more than ever, you need to know if a contractor is coming into your building. You need to make sure that they're following your building's protocols. You need to make sure that they have the proper PPE if they're coming in to do work in your community. We need to make sure that we track when they came in, when they left, where they went, and perhaps, to Danny's point, we may have to go back and sanitize an area that they had been working in, if working is even allowed in your building. Visitors, when did they come in? Do you allow visitors? How long are they allowed to be in the building? When do they need to be out? All needs to be tracked. So you may have had multiple entrances to your property in the past. Now is when you want to have one just to enter. To exit, of course, we have to follow all safety requirements and fire protocols. So exits have to remain intact, but we can certainly monitor and change the entrance points. I recommend 1. Locking down and securing your supplies. Before cleaning agents and toilet paper were not considered gold. Now they are considered gold. These are harder to come by items that you want to, it's hard enough to get. You want to make sure that these items don't disappear. What we found is that not all buildings had these storage lockers secure, or these closets were secured. They weren't locked, they were open. Now's the time you want to make sure that you not only lock them down, but that they're being monitored through perhaps rounds from your staff or additional staff that you may add to your building to do rounds to make sure that all the protocols and supplies that you put in place are being adhered to by the residents. And of course, securing amenities. Danny mentioned we're starting to come out, people are starting to get back to work, places are opening up, and soon enough, your amenities will be opening up in some areas and in some cases. We found in some of our buildings on nice weather days, people have decided to open up barbecue areas on their own. Not having proper communication with your residents, not having the proper security in place to make sure that when your amenity is closed down, that it remains that way, and that you have staff that is watching it for the safety of everyone in the building. There's a section that I want to add that is not part of my presentation, but I think packages are a big thing to discuss during COVID-19. It's imperative that you have perhaps a new protocol for actually delivering packages to your residents. What some buildings are considering is adding someone else to the staff, a package porter, another security officer who can actually deliver packages to a unit. This helps in multiple areas. If you think about the process that someone has to go through to come down to the front desk to get a package, they have to usually get in an elevator, hit a button, come to the front desk, engage with a staff member, receive the package, go back through an area, back up. This is all potential infecting of an area that is not necessary. We highly recommend, if you can do it, to have someone deliver the package. Call ahead. We're putting the package at your door, knock on the door, leave the area, ensure that the resident receives their package. Much easier and simpler. The person delivering would, of course, be equipped with all the PPE necessary to move about the building. Much easier way. What others are talking about, and the CDC suggests that perhaps the COVID-19 virus can live on cardboard for up to 3 days. It's possible. What some people are considering in some of these amenity spaces that are closed down is to use them as temporary package rooms for delivery. So example would be, if your gym is closed, you may use it for package room Monday, where you store all of Monday's packages that will be delivered on Thursday. Once those packages are delivered on Thursday, they've been sitting for 3 days, as the CDC says. You can go back and sterilize that room for the next group of packages. Just some things to consider. Hopefully we won't have to have things locked down this way for long, but very important that your staff is knowledgeable. Danny talked about training. The training of your staff is critical, making sure the communication with them as things continue to change, they need to be informed and they need to be trained. So all great things to consider. I want to bring in now a special guest who will be joining us from Atlanta, Georgia today. His name is Juan Jose Chavez. We call him JJ. He is a janitorial expert who we brought on this call to be able to answer any of your janitorial questions. Remember, below is the Q&A. Please continue. We have a few questions in there that I'll get to in a moment here. But remember, this is driven by you. So any questions for our panel, we will get to now. So I will dive in. Oh, and of course, we're going to leave our resources page here throughout the rest of our presentation. You know, on our plan companies, we have a website, we have a COVID-19 page where you can find a wealth of information, other presentations that we've done, including that Tuesday one that I mentioned early. How to reach us on our marketing plan companies. You can reach out to any of us through that website, through that email address there, and then some useful tools around the city of Philadelphia, etc. I'm ready to dive into some questions here. Guys, are you ready? JJ, you ready?
I am ready for you, sir. Good morning.
All right. Good morning and welcome, and thank you again for joining us today for this presentation. So here we go, and we're going to start off with a question for you, sir, JJ. How are you keeping your staff focused on the protocols set in place for COVID-19?
Thank you, Dino. I think that is a great question, especially what's happening now as an industry-wise. I think since the pandemic situation started, it put a lot of service providers in kind of, oh, what do we do now? Back in the day, it was all about the green cleaning, and now there has been a big switch to, disinfecting. And as we know, disinfecting is not, it's not green. So we had to basically going in and reintroduce these protocols and new processes from new chemicals that we were using to the current ones and new processes, and introduce all this to our teams, right? And that happened pretty quick. We were very successful in retraining and introducing all this to our staff. But, this was almost, more than 2 months ago, right? So I think that what it comes down to really is that, those weekly inspections, that support that we're giving to the on-site associates and keeping that material fresh. I think that that's what really comes down to. So hopefully, if you're not using Plan, your janitorial provider is staying on top and supporting the on-site teams in reminding them, in reinforcing them and inspecting them to make sure that those protocols are set in place. It's not really the new normal. I think that as an industry-wide, it's something that is going to stay here for a very long time and really change the way that we look at cleaning, again, more into the disinfecting. So the only way to do that is really stay on top of them, give them the support, the supervision, and making sure that those protocols are being implemented and followed to the T, because there's no other way around. Now you have to disinfect as much as you can, as many areas as you can, to try to stop the spread of the virus.
That's a fantastic answer, JJ. Appreciate it and agreed on everything there. You can't do enough to protect your staff and residents during this horrible pandemic. So really appreciate your insight there. There's actually a question here for me that I'm going to ask out loud and then answer. So you could go ahead and take a 2-minute break there, JJ, and I'll be following up with another for you. How can I protect my staff and ensure contractors are following protocols? Well, it starts with communication. As you heard throughout this presentation today, Danny touched on it earlier with the staff. I touched on it with communicating with your residents. JJ touched on it in his answers. It's critical that you communicate with contractors, that they understand. Perhaps you have set contractors, pool company, electricians, plumbers, who are regulars who come to your property. Sending out an earlier communication to them stating that we have new protocols at our property. If and when you come to our community, these are the set of protocols that you'll need to follow. And then of course you want to make sure that your staff, your security, your front desk team, they have those protocols set and in place so that when these contractors arrive at the property to potentially do work, they have these protocols readily available and they can use them as a reference. And for sure, those protocols are going to include PPE. For sure, those protocols are going to include the time and their insurance requirements for working in the community. And in some cases, those protocols will tell who's allowed and who's not allowed to do work during the pandemic. And some of that is governed by the state and the city of Philadelphia. So things to keep in mind. We are getting close to the end of our half hour together, but we do have another question. If we can bring back, and he loves when I introduce him, Juan Jose Chavez, thank you for coming back. We have one more question that I think we can answer for you, if you can, JJ, if you don't mind. Is now a good time, and this is a heavily loaded question, to change janitorial companies. In the middle of this pandemic, would anyone consider making a change?
Yeah, it is a loaded question, but the short answer is yes. The only a few recommendations that I have is just make sure, you know, as a property manager or as a board director, or as a regional, just make sure to do the research. I think that something that we have been very successful and something that we can always has been our focus is how are we adding value. So I think that's a building. You want to align yourself with somebody that has the reputation, somebody that has the experience, and somebody that has really the processes and the people, the right stuff for this situation going on, right? So again, protocols, people, products are really going to set the difference in how your building manages all the janitorial process, all the security processes, all the front desk protocols. And I think that that's what it really, you know, that's what is important. But, you know, it should be ready if you feel like you're not getting what you are supposed to be getting, if you feel like you're babysitting your janitorial provider, if you feel like, hey, I should be getting paid from them because I need to check on the staff and all that, I'm the one doing inspections, perhaps this is the right time to really, you know, contact us or contact another organization and really see what is out there. But I think now more than ever, you want to align yourself with an organization that can elevate the processes and the operations in your building. Yes.
Couldn't agree more, JJ, and thank you. And I want you to stay there. Don't go away. We're going to bring back Danny Riley if we can. We want to see your face. We want to see Danny's face. And to JJ's point, the person you would contact if you are considering making a change at your property now is Danny Riley. And you can reach him by emailing our marketing team at marketing@plancompanies, which is on our resources page here. Today's event has been recorded, and it will be on our website on our COVID-19 page that you see in front of you here. I wanted to give an opportunity for Danny to any last words to our friends in Philadelphia before we sign off today.
Thanks, Dino. Thanks, JJ. You guys are great as always. It's been fun. Listen, it's a unique time that we're in. We're happy to be in front of you today. And like Dino said, reach out to me. I am at your disposal. I am dying to get out, trust me, and be with you within 6 feet, obviously, and help you out. Whether it's just, like JJ mentioned, consulting and giving you best practices, like kind of like today. Or even working together, it'd be an honor. So we're at your disposal. Don't be afraid to reach out to us. And thanks again.
Great. Danny will be doing these on a regular basis for Philadelphia's residents. So if you are on the call today and you think someone else can benefit by either asking the experts questions or engaging with more information that we'll be bringing to you regularly, please let them know. Please have them sign up. Otherwise, for the City of Brotherly Love, we appreciate your attendance today. Danny, JJ, fantastic job. And we're going to close it out. Thank you so much. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.